Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today, we're going to react to this TikTok. It's actually going to be a quick video because I am really sore. And it's kind of getting worse, like hitting the 24-hour mark. It's actually terrible. So I need to just kind of do this quickly and go rest because my legs, ass, all of it is so sore. I am like, oh my God, this is horrible. So we're going to listen to the whole thing and then I will break it down piece by piece. Let's go.
So the hardest part about deciding to not hate your body for being fat is realizing that not everyone around you made that same decision. Um, and half of the work that I spent accepting my fatness and the way I treat my body involved teaching those around me how to treat me. So in my life, I was like, fat phobia is no longer part of it. Like I have to separate myself from that so I can live a fulfilling life. And a lot of my friends and my family accepted it, but some people just remain loyal to diet culture. And I realized that those conversations are never going to end. I just learned to see who's worth having these conversations with and who is not. And I think that seeing those people who are not are telling you more than you need to know. And it's kind of like learning to pick your battles, but also learning to pick your soldiers. Like some people are just not worth having these conversations where you have to constantly kind of justify your existence. So pick your battles. There's moments when you want to talk about fat phobia and the negative effects of it in your life and around you. And those people who are willing to listen to you and to be around you will hear you. But some people are truly just not worth it. And then you learn to move on with your life. And your life just becomes easier at that point. It sucks at first, but with time, it really does become easier. So the hardest part about deciding to not hate your body.
Okay, so I just want to say this to start with. This is probably one of the most low effort activistic messages I've ever heard. It's very much just don't listen to somebody if they disagree with you about this type of thing and just don't put any effort out whatsoever, which is interesting. I keep seeing a sort of receding effect within fat acceptance. I think that there is an element, at least culturally, I don't know about institutionally, but at least culturally, there seems to be a giving up, basically, or a sort of receding or ceding ground. They're not really trying to get anybody to believe what they believe anymore. Now it's like, I just want you to insulate yourself and stay in this space and stay in this way of viewing things and just don't talk to people who are different or don't talk to people who think differently than you about this issue. And I find it interesting because, again, it's so defensive. It's incredibly defensive. There's no more there's no more confidence in fat acceptance. And I think that that is a turning point. That is a huge shift in the work that I've been doing. I just keep seeing it. This video is from 2 days ago. I think at some point I'm going to need to do a video where we look at past Januaries, past years, and compare and contrast, especially looking at some of the TikToks. Because it's truly night and day from somebody laughing about somebody having a New Year's resolution to lose weight. It's totally night and day. So let's hear this again.
So the hardest part about deciding to not hate your body for being fat is realizing that not everyone around you made that same decision. Um, and half of the work that I spent accepting my fatness and the way I treat my body involved teaching those around me how to treat me.
So I think that it's interesting that it's incredibly difficult for her to handle that other people have their own opinions? I mean, if that's what I'm hearing, let me just make sure I'm hearing
So
that
the
right.
hardest part about deciding to not hate your body for being fat is realizing that not everyone around you made that same decision.
Okay, so is she saying that it's hard to accept that other people may still hate your body even if you don't hate your body anymore? That's what it sounds like. But then later she's talking about being loyal to diet culture, which is kind of like maybe she's saying, I have an issue with the fact that they still want to lose weight and there's nothing I can do about it, or that's so hard for me to deal with, which it's like, this kind of stuff, it just always makes me cringe because you can have it go the other way too. Do you think it's always easy to deal with somebody in fat acceptance if you're not? What if you change your mind and you're no longer a believer in fat acceptance? Would it be easy for you to be around somebody who is? I don't think so, but guess what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you, you don't give up. You don't just run from the conversation. I don't care if they shout you down. Make it difficult for them. Don't give up. Don't leave. Don't stop. Because this issue is life and death. And so I'm not going to tell you to just not talk to people that believe in it. I'm going to tell you, no, talk about it. Stay there. Be a thorn in the side. Be annoying. Be that person that they know you're going to push back, or you're not going to, co-sign their bullshit, basically. I don't think you should, but that doesn't mean you should recede. And if somebody has something to say to you, then you say something back. And a lot of times people that have these issues, they're so shocked if you just stand on business and you say what it is that you believe. They are shocked. They are so used to just kind of bullying people into the point or trying to shame you into it. And if you just stick to it and you say, no, I'm not going to go along with what you say, they really are shocked because they're so unprepared. And you can see what's happening. In general, they're just giving up. They are very much bullies. They're kind of like bullies. So it's like when you stand up to a bully, oftentimes they run, you know?
Um, and half of the work that I spent accepting my fatness and the way I treat my body involved teaching those around me how to treat me. So in my life, I was like, fat phobia is no
So that
longer
was,
part
oops,
of it.
not me liking it. That was half the work, was telling others how to treat you. I mean, to me, that just seems pretty low effort. When I think about my own toxic ritualistic recovery, that actually happened. Wink, wink. That's not a bullshit thing where I say that I had something, but I didn't have that one, but then I'm actually still in the other one I've been in all along, like a lot of these women. When I actually recovered, it took a lot of work. I was pretty severe. I can't even, I don't think there's any one step that I could say was half the work. There was a lot of work. I had to completely reframe everything about my life. My entire life was built on it. Everything, my whole identity was built on the toxic ritualistic world. My whole everything, my persona, my reputation, my worldviews, like how I engage with things like politics and religion, they were all built upon the toxic ritualistic world, aka E followed by the letter D, aka hinge. And so it was such a huge undertaking. It took years to get out of it and then years to recover from it. It took me 6 years to leave, and I was very severe. I don't want to scare anybody. If you're not that severe, it's not going to take that long. It's just not. But I was very, very, very deathly severe. So it took me 6 years to leave and then 5 years to recover. That's a lot of work. And the amount of effort that went into telling other people how to treat me, quote unquote, I don't even think I really had that much of a time where that was the case, where that was something I had to learn in recovery. You know, I mean, I think that's just a basic human thing to have boundaries. There was a little bit where I touched upon it in my mid-size era last year, towards May, but it's like I just learned it, I taught it, and then I just implemented it, and I had the boundaries, and that was it. It was not anywhere close to half of the amount of effort. So when I hear that, I'm like, okay, so you just haven't done anything then. Or you're not really recovering. There isn't much there. Like, you never had a problem. I don't know. Or you're just lying. You're just lying.
Like I have to separate myself from that so I can live a fulfilling life. And a lot of my friends and my family accepted it, but some people just remain loyal to diet culture. And I realized that those conversations are never going to end. I just learned to see who's worth.
They do end. If you actually fix the issue, they end. The conversations have ended for me. They've ended for quite a while, actually. The United States specifically has such low standards that honestly, even if you're just basically mid size, a lot of the conversations, especially around health and that kind of thing, the concern that people have for you, that really starts to die off at that point. And when you become average, it's completely non existent, basically. And there's hardly any pressure to do it for vanity, honestly, at least from a societal perspective. Maybe within certain subcultures, like maybe I could say, well, within gay culture, that I don't care about, honestly. I know, sorry. I don't really care about it at all. I'm just such an individual that I don't, you know, I could say that gay culture cares about me weighing as much as I do, and they want me to be probably at a different standard aesthetically. But do I actually care? No, I don't. Like I said, I'm completely indifferent. If I am a stereotypical gay person, then I am. If I'm not, then I'm not. That's basically how I feel about it. I'm just me. I just don't care. I'm at the ultimate auntie, dealt with it 50 bajillion years ago, don't care about it at all anymore. So for me, it's like, okay, sure, maybe in that group, it matters. So maybe if I was a woman, then maybe within the heterosexual dating sphere, it might matter aesthetically. Or if I was trying to be a model or an athlete, regardless of who I was, then it would matter. But I'm not. So it's like, and most of you aren't either. And a lot of women, sure, there are a lot of women that are struggling to date, but a lot aren't. A lot are not single. So it's just not typically the biggest thing in the world. That's why I always tell you guys to just have your own standards, because you just have to, like, decide what you want to do and what you're willing to maintain. And that's it. Decide whose opinion you care about and whose you don't. Like, for example, I don't give a fuck about the gay culture. I don't care. But do I care about what my crush thinks? Absolutely, I do. I care about individual opinions. So I do care about the opinions of my family. I care about the opinions of those close to me. there are people I do care about their opinions, but do I care about the greater society's opinion? No, I don't. Do I care about what Instagram tells me? I don't care. Do I care about what the fitness industry tells me? I don't care. So it's like you have to decide what you care about and for what reason. I'm not here to tell you that. But all I can tell you is within general American society, the bar is very low at this time. It's extremely low. So if you just want the conversation to stop, then maybe you should just get some level of control over the issue and get to a place where you're not scarily unhealthy, which is not a very high standard. It's just not. It's actually very low. You could still actually be relatively unhealthy and people won't say anything. So I know that was a very long winded way to say all that, but I'm just saying, let's keep it real.
Having these conversations with and who is not. And I think that seeing those people who are not are telling you more than you need to know. And it's kind of like learning to pick your battles, but also learning to pick your soldiers. Like some people are just not worth having these conversations where you have to constantly kind of justify your existence.
A lot of that within the toxic ritualistic world, it comes from within though, because you're often trying to hide what you're doing. And so you have to explain what is going on because it's like you're so big, but you're saying that you eat less than most people. That requires some level of explanation. It sounds ridiculous because it is. Even if you're just honest, if you were to just say, I don't give a fuck about my health, you probably would get less pushback. And that is horrible. It would be a horrible thing to say and a horrible thing to embody in your life. But for a lot of people, it's the lies that are so disturbing. And people are sick of the lies. I'm sick of the lies, you know? And they're lies that I used to tell. I understand it. I used to try to explain why I was such and such. You know, there were certain things I didn't go along with, but I told you guys, I really did believe it was impossible for me. So if I told people it could never happen for me, that's technically a lie because it could have the whole time. Which that took a lot to accept that I had kind of gaslit myself for years. You know, it was a part of my tortured era. It's hard. I had to forgive myself for what I did to myself. And I had to accept that I could have done it so much sooner. And that was hard. To me, that was a lot of work. You know, there is a lot of work in recovery, but I don't know. Having boundaries, at least for me personally, it was not hard. If anything, my walls have always been up too high. So if anything, I've had to learn to let down some of those boundaries. It's a little too much, honestly, for me personally. So I just don't think I can relate. I can understand that some people really struggle with boundaries. Again, I've had some whiplash moments with boundaries. I understand. It's not like I'm completely, I'm not completely ignorant to the issue, but that is just a human thing. It doesn't really have to do with being fat. You have to have boundaries regardless of if you're fat or thin. So it's like, I just don't know. I don't know what she's really trying to say.
So pick your battles. There's moments when you want to talk about fat phobia and the negative effects of it in your life and around you. And those people who are willing to listen to you and to be around you will hear you. But some people are truly just not worth it. And then you learn to move on with your life. And your life just becomes easier at that point. It sucks at first, but with time, it really, really does become easier.
I think your life just becomes smaller. You know, I think when you shut people out, um, especially, when it comes to diet stuff, it's like imagine if somebody just didn't, I don't know, it's like you just have a small disagreement about diet. It's like, is that really enough to like cut somebody out over? You know? I can understand there can be a lot of differences of opinion. There can be major differences of opinion. There can be, you have nothing in common with somebody, for example. That could be really hard on a lot of different levels. But it's like, it can go so far. I don't tend to judge people based on stuff like that because I've always known like there are people that I agree with that I don't like. There are people I disagree with that I do like. I've always been able to tell the difference between a person and their belief or their opinions because a lot of people are also hypocritical and, I know this is getting kind of too into the weeds, but a lot of people will say they believe in something, but they don't. And so it's like, okay, well, if you don't really care, you know, then okay. Then I guess it doesn't matter. It's like sometimes you have to go by people's actions rather than their words, um, especially if they're a Cancer. No, I'm just kidding. That was some astrological shade, but that is definitely probably one of the biggest signs of like, look at what they do, not what they say. You have to like understand that sometimes people are like that too. So it's like, you have to look at something with a full picture. And when you look at a full picture, then you can make a better decision. But this idea of just like, I have to explain or I have to deal with the fact that you're not co signing my toxic ritualistic issues, so I'm just going to cut you out completely, that is tragic. It is just disgusting. Even if we're coming down to like, I think you need to consider, especially with family and stuff, or people that you're close to and things like that. I'm not saying that you can't ever cut ties, but I do think that those ties are difficult to cut and they're not something that you should just blow off because of a difference of opinion about diet culture. I mean, I can't think of something more pedestrian. And I don't know if that's something that she is personally advocating for, if she even knows what she's advocating for. That's what I hear when I heard this TikTok. So, with that, you guys, I'm going to go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.